Hey guys, this is the last part of the Swan Princess read-along. It's part 20. Boing, boing. The bells of the royal cathedral haven't rung so loud in years. Every house in the kingdom was empty. Not one town person would want to miss the wedding of Prince Derek to Princess Odette. They filled the cathedral, spilling into the streets. Never before had a noise been heard like the roar that greeted the young wife and husband as they burst through the church door. The hats are thrown joyously in the air that created a momentary eclipse of the sun. Lord Rogers and Bromley stood outside the church watching the pandemonium. Well, Rogers, old man, Bromley remarked, I suppose you owe me an apology. If it weren't for me, the great animal would still be alive. Behind Rogers' head, the shadow of a winged beast appeared on the wall. Bromley's eyes widened, and as it loomed larger and larger. Dear me! Rogers gasped, staring at something over Bromley's shoulder. No! What is it? Bromley stammered. The great animal! It's alive! With a terrified cry, Bromley fainted to the floor. Queen Uberta passed by with Rogers, her elaborate swan wig balanced regally on top of her head. Rogers chuckled to himself. How fortunate the wig's shadow was so gruesome. Uberta, he said with a grin. Rogers, Uberta replied warmly. A few hours later, the reception at the new palace begun. Derek and Odette marveled at how fast the queen's subjects had renovated Rothbart's castle. Now it stood proudly over the water, scrubbed and inviting, and now it belonged to the prince and princess. Above them swooped the new Royal Air Force, General Puffin and his army of swans. As the party went on noisily inside, Odette stood near the lake with John Bob and Speed. John Bob looked up at the princess, leaning toward her with his cheek. He wore a small velvet cape. Don't be too disappointed, John Bob. If nothing happens, Odette warned. But John Bob ignored her. Finally, after all these years, he said, I shall return to my throne. Don't forget the ride, Speed said. John Bob glowered at him. You still don't believe me, do you? Don't we think you're gonna turn us red? Speed replied. John Bob looked defiantly at Odette. I'm ready. Odette leaned over and planted a gentle kiss on his cheek. John Bob spun around. His eyes rolled. He gasped. He doubled over, covering his face. Then he triumphantly raised himself to his full height. He looked exactly the same. Ha! He cried. What do you have to say now, Speed? Speed said. Begin. That's what I thought, John Bob said. And now, if you don't mind, I have some socializing to do. He threw his cape over his shoulder and strolled into the crowd. With a princely swagger, he nodded to the guests. Bonjour, madam. How are you today, sir? Hello, my little flower. Ah! A young maiden screamed and dropped to the floor at the sight of a frog. Ha! I can still make them faint, John Bob gloated. As he disappeared into the party, Odette smiled at Speed. Would you like a kiss too? Nah, Speed answered. I'm happy as a turtle. From behind them, Derek called out, There you are! Odette turned to her prince. He was smiling at her from the entrance of the castle. There are still 100 people waiting to see you inside, he said. Odette sighed. Well, Well, I suppose there's only one thing we can do. They looked at each other for a moment and then broke into wide smiles. Laughing, they took each other's hands and ran away from their new home. In the clear glow of the moonlight, they glided across the vast lawn. They stopped when they stopped only when they reached the new bridge that spanned the lake. Derek twirled his bride in the air. As he set her down gently, she gazed into his eyes. Below them, the lake lapped against the shore. In the distance, music and merry laughter rang out from the castle windows. Will you love me, Derek? Princess Odette asked. Until the day I die? No, Derek replied. Much longer than that, Odette. Much longer. As they wrapped each other in a kiss, Odette knew that he would live up to that promise. The end. Did you guys like the read-along? I did. I hope you enjoyed it. And now I'm going to show you our next read-along. Oh. Goldie, the puppy place. Goldie, coming September 30th.